Welcome to another webinar from the IRIE Product Training Center. Today's webinar is Ink and Braille Embossing. Share documents with sighted teachers and colleagues. This is the Braille Brothers webinar series, Volume 1. Today we will be focusing on embossers from ViewPlus Technologies. Let's review the learning objectives for today's webinar. We're going to learn how the combination of Braille and ink on the same document is useful for communication between Braille readers and sighted peers, teachers, and others. We're going to see how the VP SpotDot color ink embosser and the VP Elite with InkConnect can emboss Braille and print ink on the same page simultaneously. And we're going to discover how combining ink and Braille on the same page can be accomplished using various embossers and techniques. Please note that a certificate of completion is available upon request. We'll give you that code at the end of the webinar. Your presenters today are Jeff Gardner, CEO of IRIE, and Dan Gardner, CEO of ViewPlus Technologies. Thanks again for joining us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. I'm happy to have you join us today. My name is Jeff Gardner. Thank you for joining the IRIE Training Center. I'm live here today at ViewPlus Technologies, here with my brother, Dan Gardner, recently dubbed as the Braille Brothers, whether we like it or not. We'll explain that if you're interested. Anyway, let me see if I can get my brother on camera here, and we'll all share. Where are you? We only practiced this 40 or 50 times, so there he is.
Hi.
All right. So anyway, we are properly socially distanced, so we kind of had to set up a little weird, and we may have mic squeals and things because we are both in the same room, but had to position me over in the corner as I am used to from our childhood, I guess. Anyway, really excited to have you join us. I'm going to jump back. Do you want to say anything before I get in the official presentation?
Well, no, what's the best part about, webinars versus live trade shows?
Yeah, well, I told Dan to wear pants, and well, he did.
Well,
kind of.
Well, it's cheaper. You only have to buy half a wardrobe, and you can wear your jammies the rest of the time.
Awesome, awesome. I said suit jacket and boxers, but this is what we got.
Hey, we gotta represent the Cowboys here. Randy Davis might be watching.
Yeah. All right, here. So we're going to try to be somewhat serious today, but we're not very good at it. So don't count on complete seriousness the entire time. See if I can get the screen back here. All right, there we are. So again, welcome to our webinar. We're going to be focusing today on ink and Braille embossing. ViewPlus is by far the company that has the most solutions for that. In a sense, almost the only solutions for that, and quite a few of them. So we're going to look at those, and we're going to look at, well, if you just can't quite spring for one of those things yet, how can you do it with Delta or a BrailleSheet embosser you might already have? We'll show you some workarounds. Should have a lot of good stuff to show you today. Let me see if I can get my slides to change. Appears they may be doing it someday, somehow. All right. So the first one up is a VP SpotDot. This is the world's only color Braille embosser. We'll do tactographics, Braille, and color ink on top of it using HP inkjet technology. So it's really good quality ink. And I got a couple examples of things that we took pictures of to give you an example of how this can work, not only for blind people, but also people that just need to be able to touch and see at the same time, a real versatile unit. So with all of my blabbing, let me see if I can get back out to my brother here, and I'll get him on camera. There we go.
I love being on camera. Thanks. Am I supposed to unmute my mic now?
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. You unmute, and I'll mute.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right, so hopefully that my audio is clear now. And we would like you to be a participant in this, so please feel free to use the chat window to ask any questions, and I'll have Jeff monitoring as we go.
I'm watching.
And hopefully he'll keep me on track in case I get a little too deep or go too fast. he can slow me down. But yeah, I do want to step through, got the SpotDot here, and then also then the Elite with the InkConnect here, and a little bit off camera because there wasn't enough room is the Delta, or the equivalent of the IRIE BrailleSheet, is a little bit off camera at this point. And I was gonna, my plan is to try to step you through some real examples of how you can do this, and also how you can try this at home, even if you don't have this embosser. So that's really the goal for me, would be show you how easy this is, because there's a lot of people saying how difficult it is. Show you how easy it is and how you can actually do it yourself at home with just the software that's we provide, demo version for free, and you can see if I'm selling you a bill of goods here, and instead of just actually showing you how easy this really is. Let's see. So I think really is just jumping in. Is that what we're ready to do? Everybody that's here.
See some stuff. Do you want me to move the camera in, focus in on anything? Or?
No, I'm just because I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
First.
Zoom in on the SpotDot too. So.
Okay. We'll stop others. Do you want to continue?
All right. Well, I wore pants. I have to walk all over.
So okay, so with the SpotDot, I wanted to go through sort of four major topics, but the first one is when you have ink available, one of the most powerful things you can do is what we call interline text. So you have interpoint text, which is double-sided Braille, but interline means putting ink above or on top of the Braille so that collaboration is possible, or a sighted parent can help a blind, young blind reader, these kind of things. Again, you probably have much more creative ideas than I do. I'm just the engineer, but I guess that's part of my hope here, is that we'll show you some of the things that you can do, and you're not really bound by anything. We're not telling you to do exactly this. There's a lot of freedom to be creative, and to basically create whatever kind of materials you want. So in general, right, when we're doing Braille, we're starting from a Word document. In this case, it's something I cut and pasted out of our website. So, and if you've installed the Tiger software suite, or TSS, you have a Tiger menu. So inside the Tiger menu, you have the settings, and in this case, we want to target. I've saved a profile for a SpotDot for this webinar, so I don't have to look like a total fool. And inside the profile, this will have captured what you have for, I want to use ink, I want to use UEB, I want to use grade 2 contracted. If I had any math, I'd want to use Nemeth, as opposed to just using standard UEB or some other flavor of math Braille. My options for the Braille settings, in this case, options for the ink settings, from no ink to, in this case, I want to use interline ink and place it above the Braille, so that it uses a nice spot, makes it a little bit easier to read than try to do it right on top of it. I'm laying out on SpotDot for letter size, or A4 size paper. And then in this case, I do want to have this, I do have page numbers. So I do want to have it translate the footer, since the page numbers are in the footer. So if I go down here, you'll see I've inserted the page numbers inside of Word, so it will then carry that through to the Braille and update them as it repaginates. Because again, this is half a page of text in standard format, and if I hit translate document, it will expand it to Braille 29 size font, and then place all of the text inside of text boxes so that it will be interlined around the Braille and won't mess up the Braille in any way.
So we did get a Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's curious of what is the advantage of having a typographic printed and the typographic and a printed graphic on the same page compared to having them on two separate sheets of paper. I mean, obviously, the main advantage is that people who are inside the world who don't know Braille know what the documents are, so you don't get the wrong test. Teachers can all know what's going on, even if they're not TDIs. Parents can know. But in my experience, I see mostly people are excited about having the graphic and the color together for dyslexia and sort of using the printer outside of simply the blind students, but also the learning disabled students.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other part is, like I said, the collaboration aspect of it, to where you can be using the same document for both. And especially if you're talking about, okay, how many of those do you have? If you have hundreds of pages, then keeping those pairs together can also be a little bit of a pain. So
I suppose like the science examples, then you can bring that in to your science teacher and they can show you the diagram and explain it the same as they would to a sighted kid, because they're not going to be able to read the Braille.
Mm-hmm. Well, because a lot of times the Typographic may not have any Braille on it at all either. You know, we didn't set up the audio tactile version, but a lot of it, if you visit at the shows, we're usually showing you how to use a lot of the scientific examples with just the tactile and the audio as well. So yeah, so in any way, there's, you know, I guess there's no one right way, but just, again, we're showing you what this can do. You can do it the other way. But the other thing I see is, at least the common thing is, in this case, we're using this letter size paper. So it's you know, but when you start going to the elite, you're talking about, we're going to be using standard Braille size papers, 11.5 by 11. That isn't always easy to get it to work in a regular printer. That's a weird paper size that isn't a standard paper size. So having it combined makes it easier. But just also, you'll see, I mean, the paper repaginated everything. So getting them to line up is also challenging, because once you reformat it just you know, now I've got a 3-page document where before I had a half a page document. So what do you do? When do you print the ink version if you were doing that? And so this, yeah, so this lays out exactly what I expect with the ink and then the Braille here. And you can switch between ASCII Braille or seeing the Braille dots if you'd like. Depends on how you like to proofread, or if you want to proofread it at all. Either case, the Braille 29 font here or the Braille 29 ASCII will both print the same as the dots on the screen here. So if I have Braille 29 versus if I want to see this, oops, as ASCII text, I can change this here.
So we've got some more questions coming in.
Mm-hmm.
People can't hear me well, obviously, because I have to turn my mic off. So you'll need to repeat what I say until I take the mic back.
Okay.
So just say that.
So you won't repeat? I'll have to repeat everything you say, or something like that?
Simon says.
Okay.
I'll try to speak loudly, but he'll repeat what I say when I don't have my mic on. We have to have only one mic on at a time. We'll get feedback if we are in the same room. So one question about this, people are curious what the red and the blue lines are.
The red and the blue lines are Word wanting to do spell check, because if I highlight this, this is using grade 2, so there's some weird characters in there, right? So if you want to look at this, if you want to see this, I tend to use it, but so it's using, so that fails spell check, basically. That's operation, but it's got the, you know, concatenation for ER and what is it, TIO. So that throws off Word spell check if I turned it off. And so that's really what those are coming from. It's just word saying I don't understand this. I guess I'm just used to ignoring it. So and like I said, this is our using our Tiger software suite, which is really has, I'll show you all 3 parts today, but or all 3 of the main parts. The first part is the Word plugin. So you have a Tiger tab. It keeps getting hidden by my by Zoom. So the Tiger tab, and then there's also a plugin similarly for Excel to do translation of tables and charts. And then there is the Tiger Designer, which is sort of like a Windows Paint for tactographics that we have. And so the other key piece to all this, right, is that we're just in Word. We just hit the translate document with turning on the inner line. And if I want to now get this, I want to now emboss this. A lot of times that's on other stuff. It's like, I've got to do all these gyrations to get it to print. In this case, I go to Windows Print, or I go to Word and hit print. And I have a SpotDot, an imprint SpotDot printer driver set up to print to file. So even if I don't have a printer, you can download a printer driver from the ViewPlus website and install a printer. And I have a little YouTube video on how to do that. I think we can put that in the show notes. But there's a YouTube video showing you how to link or how to set up any of our printers, download the printer driver and set it up to print a file. So then when I hit print, it will ask me to save that file somewhere. And so, I don't know, I always wants to go to my documents. So if we say SpotDot webinar, so I can find it again. Then I go into my documents. So then that saves this PRN file, or prints this as a PRN file, which will look exactly so if I open this up, if you don't have TSS installed, it would open up in Tiger Viewer, which comes with the printer driver. But in this case, it's opening up in Tiger Designer, and so I can actually edit this if I wanted to. And so with the way that it does this is it has 2 pages of data. So there is I only printed page 2. Hold on. The joys of switching back and forth with webinars. Let's see, print.
So if I hold down my button, I can turn my mic off temporarily and hopefully not get too much feedback. Someone was asking about the, in terms of correcting the Braille, if they go in and they correct the Braille, what happens to the print?
It's not connected. So it's not, I mean, there's ones like Braille Blaster, they're kind of live to where they're bouncing back and forth. You're editing one, it's changing the other one, it's doing back translate. Well, because a lot of the back translates aren't always that great. So ours is pretty static. If you edit the Braille and it changes the text, you'd have to edit both. If it was just an error, well, then the ink is probably still right, but they are not connected, but they are both editable.
Yeah, the text is just a text box that's placed. So you can get in and you can edit that as well. You can get back to your original and change it and then get back. And then of course, everything ViewPlus works with, and IRIE embossers both all work with Windows and do this stuff where they can work with Word, but they also will work with Duxbury and all your standard software you use with other embossers, and Duxbury will print innerline on these embossers.
So, and the way it shows up by default when you're looking at the PRN files, it's showing you the ink page and then the Braille page, but you can do different views where I can do a combined view and show what it's actually going to print with. And so this is, again, is a great way to, well, not waste paper, but to see that you're getting exactly, in this case, it's Braille and ink, so it's not as, but with Typographic, sometimes you would like to get a preview before you print it. This is a great way to look at that preview. And in reality, the only difference of hitting print to the other printer is I have this one hooked up. Maybe. So I have a, well, yeah, this is my main laptop. I was doing a lot of QA earlier, so I have a lot of printers hooked up. And so, yeah, so we'll see it has the page, you know, I can print it out. I don't know. Well, they're not seeing my camera, right? They're seeing my screen.
I could share it if you want.
Yeah, if we turn back on the camera, because essentially all I do is hit print, and it would make a lot of noise and be hard to hear me, and it would print it out. And so I have done the easy bake oven approach and have printed that out. So I don't know. It's hard to see if it's showing up on that camera at all, but. I just don't know if they mean. Well, oh, wow, that's a pretty nice camera.
Yeah. Big budget here.
So you can see it. So it prints the text and the Braille in nice quality here. And so very readable. So, but other than the actual printing part, right, you can get a really good idea of what it would look like just by using, you know, we had the TSS has a 30-day trial. The printer drivers, if you download the printer drivers, it includes the Braille fonts. The printer drivers and fonts are a free download, and they include Tiger Viewer. So you can even just do stuff in Word and hand type in if you don't need the translation. You can just try stuff and with just a printer driver and graphics and hand placing your own Braille if you want for free. So there's no reason that you can't test this out for yourself. So if I go back to screen sharing.
So we did have a question about whether this will work on Mac. And yes, ViewPlus embossers do work on Mac iOS. However, there's really only Duxbury software that will print to an embosser from iOS. So it's pretty much the same as any other embosser that can work with Mac. And most of the special things that we're showing you would require that you do like I do. I'm a Mac user. I just put parallels on my Mac, and then I can do everything with this. Get the same word I use on my Mac side. I just bring it over to the PC side, and I'm rolling.
Well, in this part, so I mean, this part that I'm showing right now, the Braille with the interlining, Duxbury does support. They don't have very many options. I think their only option is they interline with the text below the Braille, and they don't have any options for where to put it like we do with above, on top, over, below, and changing fonts. So there's a little bit less options, but this particular piece of ink with the interline is supported in Duxbury and would work on PC or Mac versions of Duxbury. So yeah, we work very closely with them. The main thing that they don't allow will be the thing, you know, the other piece would be if I wanted to insert a picture inside of here. They, you know, nobody, I mean, Braille Blaster also works on Mac, although the printing on that one is a little weird because they're using some JavaScript routines, but Braille Blaster was designed on Windows. They're working on some of the Mac and Linux things, but they also do not support any graphics at this time. So to use all of the features, that's why we end up having to do our own software. So for standard stuff, you can use any software. For if you want to use the full features of the printer, it's pretty much Windows PC or emulation on Mac.
And for the one line, and for the person who asked whether you can, I'm not sure I understand the question appears to be whether you can print and just print and not emboss. And yeah, you can emboss with no print, and you can print with no emboss.
Yeah, if I go back to the print dialog, if you go into the printer properties, then the Tiger tab. So I can say I want to emboss, I want to print, or I want to do both as I have by default. Also, if I want to emboss standard text, so if you want to make a really big font so that then it can emboss that. You know, if you try to emboss anything below huge, it's just going to be a big mess. But we do some examples where, you know, you built a whole page that says fish or something below the salmon, and then you can feel the shapes of the letters. And so yeah, so we've tried to put all those other options in, and I will show too the other thing that I'm going to be showing in the next example. We'll be using this advanced 2-in-1 mode, which is really combining an ink page and a tactile page into one. So you could have different things. So if you didn't like the text boxes messing up your Braille, you could have the text on one page, like the other example. You have the text on one page and the Braille on another page, and the printer driver will actually merge those into one print and emboss page for you. And we're actually going to show you, there's some really interesting things that you can do that to make some of these things that, again, appear to be very difficult to do quite easy. So is there more questions? Or are we going to?
Okay. No, I think we're caught up to question. Oh no, there's more. Somebody asked what Okay, somebody asked about what is Duxbury. And it's actually spelled Duxbury. It's Duxbury DBT is one of the main Braille editor softwares that are out there that works on Mac, and they have the standard Windows version. We also had a question about UEB and Nimith, and yes, Tiger Software Suite can use both of those. You just have to use math type with it.
Yeah, and there's some from our other earlier webinars. There's some ones we did on specifically on math, since that one gets a lot of interest. And yes, so that would be. I didn't do any examples this time. I mean that actually there's one right here where we have the ink. Oh, you can't see it. On my wall here, I have one example where we have the with the Elite, we have the math that's done inside of math type. And in Word, so we get the ink, the math ink. I don't know how that's going to show up, but so you get
I have an image of something like that actually.
Yeah, and I have this example in my. So yeah, so you can do the math Braille.
You're going the wrong way. You just stay still.
Okay. So you're talking about the quadratic equation, and say, and this is I did on how to make this document. So you can have the math Braille in there.
Cameraman is terrible.
And this one I think is still in English Braille, but yeah, so that's what I was saying. When you do the setup inside of Word, you tell it which language you want for the standard part. So like UEB grade 2 or grade 1, and then under the math section, you could use Nemeth, and we'll put in the start and stop Nemeth block flag, characters for you. And then translate the Braille into Nemeth Braille for the math sections that are done inside the math type equations. Sounds more complicated than it really is. I guess I'm not really good at explaining it.
Sorry, a clarification. Yeah, there is a Mac driver, but there's only one software that's going to really work with any embosser, and that's Duxbury for Mac. Sorry, I must have confused things when I was talking about how I use it through Parallels, because you also can obviously run Windows on a Mac. But in terms of the Mac side of things, there is a driver that only works with Duxbury.
Yeah, I've got a Mac Mini sitting on my desk in my office, but I didn't bring it in with me to show you. I lost my place. Oh, that's why. All right. So one of the biggest other things we see, and this is again, as I said, doing something that seems to be very complex for any other Braille embosser, but because of the fact we're based on Word, we actually probably give you too many options of how to do this. So doing business cards is another thing that, so in this case with the SpotDot, these eight per sheet ones work the best because you have a little bit of gap in between. Oh no, I'm showing you as I'm, anyway, I guess I'll explain it to you since I'm looking at my screen.
Your close up, so if you put it up.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so on this case, the Avery 8869s, which is 4 columns or 2 columns of 4, but there's a little bit of space around each card. So it means you can have some bleed area for the ink. And that works really well on the SpotDot as a layout, and you just download the template, right? Or Word has it built in, and you can use the label functions inside of Word. And so there's a lot of things you can do. And so if you just want Braille, it's pretty straightforward. I actually created this template here based on their template and looked up a little bit on labels inside of Word on how to have it autofill. So like in this case, if I know exactly what I want, and that took some challenging too, because it's really in Braille, a standard business card, you have room for 13 characters per line and 4 lines. And so if I want to fit something on there, I had to play with it a little bit to figure out what I could put on there. And there's some rules and on what you're allowed to do. And I found this inside of the BANA's website. It had a business card instruction and some examples of what to do. So I've kind of figured out for what I wanted, what my card would look like. So what I did was figure out that I can put essentially my name, my phone number, and my email address in one on one business card, and that's about all that's going to fit. It said I was allowed, was allowed to do some things. I wasn't allowed to do some of the things. But if all I'm doing is wanting this, then it's just a question of like, well, what do I want the Braille? What does the Braille look like? If I don't care, if I just want to do grade 1, I can really just type this in, except for the numbers, right? So I'm getting there, but I'm not nowhere near. I'm not a Braille specialist, even though I guess that they're calling us the Braille Brothers. But I defer to. I am not an expert and I make no claims to knowing what the best way to do things are. So I'm just kind of telling you what I've learned. There's the people at BANA, there's a lot of transcribers in the field that are way better at some of this stuff than I am. But the thing that I find helpful is I was trying to figure out how much space it would take up. If within the new TSS7, we've completely redone the Viewplus Translator. This is a standalone thing that runs outside of Word or Excel or whatever. So if I want to look at similar settings, I guess I don't want Swedish. I was debugging something. I go back to English Unified, and I want to look at grade 2. Again, here's where the math can be set. Usually I'm defaulting to Nemeth. And what I have on the clipboard now is Dan Gardner. I want to see what that's going to look like. If I say translate clipboard text, there's my name shortened. So it says capital signal Dan, capital signal Gard, and then the AR and the ER get shortened. So that's helpful in this case. So it's actually shorter. BANA said I could also get rid of the capital signals if I wanted to. If my name wouldn't fit in there. So you have some guidance, and that's where the ASCII is sometimes easier. So if I wanted to just reproduce this, I can go back to that template. And now that one is in that is in the clipboard. So if I paste that back in there, the Dan Gardner shows up for that line and will autofill in. Oh, I screwed up. You have to be inside of the macro to get it to autofill.
So you're just skipping the envelope and label wizard?
Yeah. Well, because this is
I
just
like that part.
Well, that one was challenge. It was somewhat challenging. Envelope and label is there. There's also, you can just lay out, you can just create your own labels, which is is just a table, or we can import it in. But I like this one because with this template, there's a way inside of tables to replicate the cells so that if you type in, if I change this to change, it then copies it to all the other cells. So then I can just make my business card in one of these cells and it will work. And so like in this case, if I wanted to just type in ASCII grade 1, I can have at least my name in there. And my phone number, right? Again, I don't remember.
Oh, I haven't even done it that way before. I always just use the envelope and label wizard.
Yeah, well, see, and this one was, so I did it this way for another reason. This is great if I just want the Braille, right? And the envelope and wizard works great for that. But if I want to also print the ink version of my card, which I got a proof back from the print shop. It was a PDF. I converted it to a JPEG, right? And then what I did was I made a second page a second page of that table. And again, this is the easy bake oven thing. I mean, this took me a long time to figure out. So, but now now that I know that it works, that template works great. So here's the Dan Gardner's in there. It's copied all of those. It has my phone number and it has my email address following their standard, which said put everything you can. Well, try to do the break at the @ symbol and not break it up because it could actually end up with, by default, the V was on the line anyway. So there's the first page, but the second page is the same table, but I just pasted that JPEG into the cell and played with I expanded a little bit to play with the bleed area so that I didn't get any kind of white on the business card. And then by hitting print in 2-in-1 mode, it prints the business cards with the ink on it and the Braille on it. And so, well, it's easier to see on the preview. I guess I have the preview. That might so and what does this actually look like was, again, this is where it's helpful to have the Tiger Viewer thing there. So I have an ink page, which has all those pieces on it. And then the Braille page has all that Braille on it. And if I do the combined view, then you can see the layout of the combination of the ink and the Braille. And so that's one, again, this is what the SpotDot can do in one pass, is print out the business cards on this Avery nice clean edge thing and have it work.
Hold up your document camera.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that the big one?
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, yeah, none of these webcams are very high quality, so I've never tried to show the dots that way. That's why I said to me, the preview, this is the preview that you see of a PRN file is the actual print file, just not printed on paper. So you get a really good idea of what it looks like. So the thing I did find was on these ones that the font that I used on my ink cards was awfully small when, well, as my eyes get older, but also as they print Braille on it, it makes it very hard to read. So I played with a lot of other things as well, because on the Delta, right, it can also take these cut sheets, but it does interpoint Braille. So I could print double-sided cards and get 4 lines on each side of the card. So you can get a little bit more information on there. And the other thing I did was I took my standard business cards that were already pre-printed, but I didn't have anything on the back of those, and just used the American Thermoform Braille labels to, again, run those through and put those stickers on the back of my card so that I would never run out of Braille cards or have to print more at a show. It's like I always could have as many of those Braille labels as I wanted. So, and they tend to be pretty robust. So again, you have lots of different ways to do it. It's just to do anything where you're trying to do ink and Braille, right? You can't do them on an individual card. Their cards are too small to go through anybody's printer, much less an embosser. So you need to do something with full sheets, and then you have the challenges of how do you cut them up, which is what's nice about these Avery ones, that they're held together enough that they don't come apart in the printer, but they have nice clean edges. And they say now clean edge business cards, they're a lot better than what used to see from self-printed business cards.
So I got a question here about what it looks like when, does the Braille break the ink? So let me run over, I'll turn on that other camera and I'll hold that document up to it, because you can see it actually, the ink holds really well. It's surprising how much the Braille doesn't disrupt the ink, especially with Tiger technology.
This one's striped too, though.
Yeah.
This ink doesn't look that good on this one because my ink cartridge is a little dirty, but well, and again, that also depends, right? On the laser printer, like we have a Kyocera laser printer, that also doesn't break apart. But if you're using like a phaser, those ones that use kind of like ink or like a little bit of waxy type of toner stuff, that can break. So it depends on what you're using. I mean, the HP ink is a dye, so it's not going to crack. On a laser printer, it depends on the laser printer sometimes whether the toner will break off or not. But I said mostly it's just those phasers, and I don't know how popular those are anymore. They were popular for a while, but we just leased a newer Kyocera, and it works great. and doesn't break apart. So I said the only thing you see is that it does on the small font, it makes it lumpy. So it makes it hard to read because you on some of the smaller fonts. That's why I say if I were to really design an ink and braille card, I would probably have bigger font. But this was my actual, this is just the proof for my printed business card. So I say in reality, I would put less, make the font bigger or the spacing, change the spacing. But that was all done by graphic people at the print shop.
Usually that question comes up in terms of when you want to use space effectively, or people want a larger print and the print itself overlaps the braille. I've mostly had that question for interline printing. And we've found that you can literally just print, as long as you use a decent sized font, you can just literally print on top of the braille and it's fine. You still can read it great. Even people with low vision can still read it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that the secret is you're printing first. We're always printing first. Well, I guess except for the elite. So if you're doing it with one of our embossers, I usually, you don't want to run the braille through you don't want to run the embossed stuff through a laser printer. It'll jam and it'll flatten the dots. So you're usually printing first, and on the SpotDot, you're doing that as well. So the ink is pretty much perfect, and the paper may malform, but yeah, like I said, big enough font, it works. So yeah, so this is again was using that special mode where I'm really just I'm using 2-in-1 mode. So so it's really these two pages get merged by the printer driver, and this is effective. I mean, this is great for if you want certain things like graphical things to be ink only, like if you wanted to put like what do you call a QR code or something on there. You could put those or a barcode. You could put those on the ink layer only and not have them be then embossed. So this is really handy, if you're doing a little bit more advanced stuff than just sort of finding something and hitting print from the internet.
So, and just to clarify, you can do that. You can print ink and braille from any program in Windows that allows you to print. And you can manipulate the braille in any program that allows you to manipulate the font. So you can do this same thing with a ViewPlus printer in just about anything. We're using Word mostly because for those who aren't familiar with the Tiger software suite, Tiger software suite is optimized to work within Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. So we use that because it's just the easiest most of the time. And then like in particular for business cards, I like to use I like to use Word because there's the envelope and label wizard.
Yeah, well, and yeah, so for pure graphics, that's where, people use Adobe Illustrator all the time, right? Adobe Illustrator works great, and you insert the text as Braille 29, and if you don't know what Braille you want, that's where that standalone translator works great. That's cutting and pasting. You take what text you want and have it translated to the clipboard and then paste it back in as Braille. That works great across any Windows program that has font control. So yeah, I mean, Word and Excel, if you're not, we're using those because we're translating everything, right? I don't know well enough just to type in the Braille or to turn on the 6-key, 8-key entry mode and get that to go. I don't know it well enough, so I'm translating things. So like in this case, the next case is using Excel, you have all sorts of different graphs and charts and things. And so Jeff asked me to put together a pie chart. So we have this pie chart about, how much wages versus rent versus utilities are. And so here was the original one. And again, you have a Tiger menu in here, just like the other one. I have my SpotDot chosen, and it's going to, again, it's going to use that 2-in-1 mode. When I hit translate, I end up with a tactile version with the Braille and then the version there. And then I have the ink layer. And it does the same thing with the sheet because I translate the whole document. So it creates the Braille and then the matching ink for it as well. Although I didn't see till later that expense was at the pence. but so this again works exactly like I kind of showed with the business card, but most people don't see that when they're in Word only. So again, so then just printing this is easier in this case to use the emboss print from the Tiger menu, because then it's saying I want to print the entire workbook and I want to use 2-in-1 mode, and it takes care of merging all those things together and just generating the PRN in this case. So that's where I could go and check and make sure I got what I wanted. So when I hit print, I get the layout. So again, if I want to do the view, combine view, then you'll see the tactile is lining up exactly with the ink, and you have the Braille and the print all lining up as well. And so that's great. And it printed out fantastic over here. So the ink, you know, the ink and Braille and tactile matches exactly what I'm seeing on the screen. The other part, I mean, the other thing that we do with this one a lot is a way to show you the power of what you can do, the different color heights, right? We have different dot heights. We haven't even touched on that yet, because in the black only and the text doesn't matter, it's all Braille. But in this case, you are seeing in the tactile layer that you have there's different grayscale. So there's these different dot heights that show up from drawing color, essentially 0, which is nothing, white, up to Braille. But you have 7 different dot heights we use for graphics to represent color based on the intensity of the color. And so that's why you see this darker color, because there was the black outline. There's a black outline around all the pie charts, which we turned on inside of Excel, was to turn on the highlighting around the pie chart pieces so they would be easier to find a boundary. But then the fill is at different levels, different dot heights based on the intensity of the color. And so that's why we kind of chose a green, a blue, and a yellow of different intensities so that we would get some variation. The nice thing about doing that in Excel is that if I change something in the data and redraw the drop, this would print out again, even if it became 55% and the pie wasn't split perfectly. But if it's something I'm really trying to tune in perfectly, you can, inside of Tiger Designer, adjust those fills. So, and I can add things like pattern fill. So like if the two dark little pieces are too hard to tell apart, I can use the fill tool, the pattern fill tool, and click on that region, and it will change it to a pattern fill. So that's something that's very nice to give more determination, especially if you have maybe things that are closer in color, or you have much more data and it's hard to tell apart from just dot height alone. You can add that there's a multitude of different pattern fills, and you can make your own and then use them inside of Tiger Designer. So that's one of the main uses for Tiger Designer, is to either get rid of spurious little dots that you didn't want, add pattern fill, or quickly insert Braille as well. So that's something too that's in there. Is, I don't know, if I forget what this Braille is and I select it, I select the Braille first.
Yeah, I like that, especially in this case, you have a color document and you have a tactile document, and then you can really make the tactile one unique if you didn't like the way the colors turned out, embossing and that kind of stuff. I like you can manipulate them separately.
Well, and you can do some editing inside of here, because it doesn't like the sideways Braille, but you can add Braille labels, horizontal, vertical labels, and things in there as well. It's just, again, I like doing it in the source material, because then if you make a small change, so if you're in Illustrator or you're in PowerPoint or you're in whatever tool you're in, I like just kind of choosing colors that are high contrast. So again, if you're used to doing low vision stuff too, high contrast color palettes will create much more difference in the dot height, so that they'll come out easier to differentiate. And again, this is unique to ViewPlus. Nobody else does the variable dot heights.
All right, well, we got like 10 minutes left, and we've got one.
Well, so I wanted to spend the time to go through that because really the step is exactly the same to go through the InkConnect. I just don't do the business card part. And then I added, because again, you're talking about letter size paper, and then on this one, you're talking up to 12 inches wide paper. So you can use the standard 11.5 by 11 paper. So the interline document looks pretty much the same, but it all fits on one page because I just retarget it to it. So I get one inner point page. This one does inner point. So it's really only uses one piece of paper. And because of the larger paper, it fits onto 2 pages. So it uses one piece of paper. And you have 2 options with the InkConnect is, if we zoom into this one, you can have the ink for the front and back will be in 2 columns on the front, because with ink you can only print on one side at a time. And so it does double-sided Braille, but the ink is in 2 columns on the front is the default mode. But if you don't like that and you want it to be on both sides, you just run it through twice. So I did that for you here. Was now the ink matches up by side. So that's the main difference. Otherwise, everything of creating the document's the same. Just to choose the layout. I had the layout set for 11 by 11, and I have it labeled for the Elite with InkConnect. So it did essentially exactly the same. Just retranslated it for the Elite. And also the pie chart was also very similar. Well, actually, I didn't even change the size. I just reprinted it, since the page 11.5 by 11 and 8.5 by 11. I didn't regenerate it. I didn't resize it. I just reprinted it. So the only thing I saw here was that the grayscale version was too close, even though the tactile version was different enough. So I probably would go back and play with those colors a little bit, or use just a grayscale palette, because that's what we're getting with the black only ink on the InkConnect.
So Dan, can you move those labels in Excel if you don't want them to be on top of the Braille?
Yeah, that's all controllable by Excel. So that is, you're getting these 2 different sheets. Oh, I guess I already have it open. Oh, I had this one. Yeah, so you have the Braille and you have the ink, and they're combining these into one. So if I want to just move these away, I can move those and move them away.
Sure you can. There you go.
And then when I printed it, it wouldn't line up. And I don't said it's possible there's some of the controls, because there's also with like legends and other things. I mean, again, I use Word a lot more, because that's why you use the tool, right? If you were a graphic designer, you use Illustrator and do this stuff. If you're using, if you're like Word, I use Word a lot more than I use Excel, especially charting. So I have to always like Google and look up, how do I if I want to put legends in there, I want to put a key in there. If I want to do some other, Excel things, they're mostly Excel. Like, how do I add an outline around the cells, right? Those are all settings. Most of them are inside the setting parts here. But you can find them by double clicking a lot of the times. But yeah, a lot of the kung fu pieces are inside of the actual tool. And so Excel is one that I use the spreadsheets. I don't use the charting as much. Now that I'm a sellout, I'm no longer an engineer, I'm an executive. So the other thing I didn't show, and we do it on the SpotDot as well, but I just think the one that people really like to see is the US map with ink and Braille on it. So this is one, again, that is really popular. People love to take copies of this from the shows. So again, this is just a Word document that kind of looks like a PowerPoint slide. But
switch over to the lead, all right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to let me do that.
Oh, well, you said we had 10 minutes left, so I jumped in. That's what I said. The only thing I changed, the only real difference is that.
Like at least show people a picture of it.
Okay.
For anybody who can see this, then you can see the. I have some close-ups of images and things too in here. picture, but gives you an idea. I'll zoom in on the one with the other. Sorry, my mic is controlling the same thing as my PowerPoint. Okay, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself and I was just changing the PowerPoint. Anyway, I'll get a close-up of the Elite with PowerPoint or with InkConnect, so you can see that, because that picture is pretty terrible for anybody who is sighted and wants to see that. This is an add-on to either the Elite or the Premier, so there's two embossers that can add this ink solution for one pass. And I've got a close-up of the map we were trying to look at before, and I think I have another document. Now it won't let me control my PowerPoint. Yeah, okay, so I had another document. And at some point soon, Dan is also going to get you some information. We want to point out that a lot of this stuff can be done with the VP Delta 2 or with the BrailleSheet. If you have a cut sheet embosser, this is going to do all kinds of different media. So you can put a flyer into it. You can print something in an ink printer and do business cards like Dan was doing earlier with two printers. But we want to make sure we bring that forth as a solution. And now I will send it back to Dan. Let's see. Oh, how did that get on there? that's I had to just throw in one of these things just because it's just terrible. So go ahead and take it back, Dan.
Thanks.
That's our dad, too.
I probably got some pictures of you somewhere.
I got that one from your wife.
Thanks. So yeah, I think the main difference when moving is from to the Elite is that you get big paper, and but you only have black ink, but you do have also interpoint braille. So we get a lot. These are our workhorses. They're production printers. They go, they work. They run 24/7. They're in a lot of right next to Braillos. A lot of cases where we're just cranking out Typographic or adding the ink layers or doing all the special things that only we can do. And so, so that's what I would say. So the main thing, doing the Excel or the Word with the interlining is exactly the same as it was on the SpotDot. And then the maps and things like that are just bigger is better. And that really, I think, leads into, for the Delta, I'm using our Kyocera. And again, it was exactly the same thing. The only big difference that we added to make this easier in TSS 7 or a newer version of TSS 7 release was when I would get the Braille document with the interlining on it, right? If I were to send this document, Zoom. Okay.
We are down to our last couple of minutes. Do we want to open up your questions? We still have quite a few that are kind of waiting.
Okay. Well, I was just saying that. So the only thing I ran into is if I don't want to print the dots on the ink, we added this hide Braille feature so that I would print this on the Kyocera, which I did, and then just print it on the Delta. And so we try to make it really easy to do that. And if you're doing 2-in-1 mode, you just send one page to one printer, one to the other. So a lot of the stuff we're doing would be really hard if you'd never used it, if we didn't have our stuff. But the software is set up to be able to allow you to do it. And the thing I like about the Delta, cut sheet, you can buy off the shelf 12x18 cardstock, 11x17 cardstock. It's amazing, even 11.5x11, but just the bigger paper, the better. For me is you can just do some very, very creative things with the bigger paper. And yeah, I guess if we want to get any questions, I mean, I'm not sure how tight, if we're going to get kicked off of Zoom or we want to just take over, do questions for another 5 minutes.
People are running. I mean, we'll stay on here as long as there are questions, but I did want to have at least some sort of finale for people that need to get running. We promised the one thing. Well, I wanted to also, sorry, unmute myself. Okay, sorry. So I did want to just run through for people that need to get going. We're going to hang around and we'll answer questions, but I wanted to kind of get the final stuff out to people that are waiting for the code and such. We have a bunch of different options available for web pages that you can get more information about these things. Let's see, the certificate of completion code for today is bro code. So sorry, I had a little fun with that one. If you would like more information about today's webinar, you can reach us at, we'll come to our webpage at irie-at.com. You can send us an email either at training or sales at irie-at.com, or give us a call at 1-888-308-0059. And I have a final hurrah slide where we can take some questions and things. And like I said, we'll go ahead and hang out and answer questions for folks, but we want to make sure to be respectful of people's time that need to get going. And looks like from the reaction today, we're going to need to do more of these. And we will be sending out an email with the recording tomorrow morning. Everybody should get that. And we'll have a link to the YouTube recording. But we had a few other questions I wanted to try to get to. One was asking about the combination of textures that you can use, and you can use any texture that you want. You're just going to get different results when you're going to convert something that's 1200 DPI or whatever the original texture is to 20. So you have to play around with it. I can't really tell you how many will work, but you can customize them. So one that maybe is too dense, you can stretch out. Just play with them. I think you'd be able to find at least 10 or so that would be useful and distinguishable from each other.
What's the bro code?
Bro code. And if you're on the webinar live, in most cases, we know who you are and we have you logged in. So you just have to tell us, give me a certificate and we'll give it to you. If you're watching this recorded, then you'd want to give me the code so I can verify that you actually watched it and give you your certificate of completion. There are different dot heights. I think there's 7 or 8. How many dot heights? I only use like 3. I don't want to put too much craziness in there. You know, high contrast, simple is the way to go with Typographic. So, you know, they're there so you have flexibility of different things, but personally, I don't use more than 3 in the same document. Okay, so yeah, so people would like to see the embossers working more in future webinars. We will absolutely do that, and this will be just the first of many Braille Brothers webinars. And someone's asking about elevation changes. I'm assuming you're talking about a relief map or something. You know, you're talking about millimeters of relief. So yeah, it can show some of those things. Kind of have to take that, you know, if you need more height, you're going to be doing something on a thermoform machine to get the height. But I mean, technically it can do it. It's just a matter of how much relief you need.
Yeah,
and that will depend on the paper. The thicker paper will allow you to punch harder and you'll get more spread between the dots. So
okay,
now we're getting echo again.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I think that we have exhausted our questions here.
what's this dot height on the same size or actual dots change?
Dots look pretty much the same size. I mean, they should be a slightly smaller diameter, but really it's the height that you're changing.
Yeah, because they're partially punching, they look a little different.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think we answered all the questions. And if you have more questions, do reach out to us at training at irie-at.com or give us a call at 1-888-308-0059. And we'll be happy to answer your questions. We have an upcoming webinar December 3rd. We're going to be covering affordable desktop magnifiers, quality magnifiers made in Europe. I hope you can join us for that one. And for the upcoming Braille Brothers series, which will begin again in January, maybe early February, of 2021. Everybody have a great day. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar from the IRIE AT Product Training Center. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us at training@irie-at.com. Thanks again for joining us and have a great day.